always have fun at home.
Hello everyone, we're here for the post-game conference with the press. Just a reminder with the photographers to stay low as we have cameras in the back. And for the journalists, after we're done with a few preliminary questions to the players, you can go to the microphones to the left and right of the room. Do not touch the microphone and always leave your mask on when you ask any questions at all of the players. Jan, you had your second white today. Was there a point in the game you felt like you might have had some chances, or it seemed like it petered out pretty quickly?
Well, I guess I could roughly say that opening ended up in my favor, like it was very slight edge, but it looked like it's going to be, let's say, long term. But then, well, this a5 move from Magnus is positionally surely questionable, but seems like after some pretty precise moves, Black can be close to equality. And well, I mean, d4 looks absolutely natural, and if I would realize earlier that after d4 and exchanges after bishop e6, I can't basically prevent d5. So after d5, Black has some decent counterplay even in the endgame. I would probably play differently, maybe, I don't know, some h3 or knight e3, just play it more slowly. But after bishop c8, d4 looks like very natural, so Black has all these pieces onto the last rank. But yeah, somehow after bishop e6, it's really hard to do something. So I spent quite some time, and probably the best try I found part of h3 was, I believe, knight d2 move. But even then, okay, I can only hope for some Marshall-like, okay, we're playing anti-Marshall, but anyway, Marshall-like extra pawn against two bishops, so basically extremely close to a draw anyway. That was it.
Are you feeling any frustration about the fact that you haven't gotten going, so to speak, with the white pieces yet?
No, I mean, okay, absolutely no frustration, so I guess it was a clean game and a very logical one, and even in the endgame, if I would be, given a couple of tempi, I could pose some problems in this, let's say, bishop endgame. But I mean, okay, especially once like kings enter c5 and f5 f4, there is never anything for white. Well, I mean, this is the current status of the chess theory, so it's hard to find some advantage.
Magnus, is there anything sexy you can say about today's game?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that I could say, but yeah, I generally agree that I was obviously making some fairly ugly moves, but it seems all to work out reasonably well. At least I couldn't see any concrete way to pose serious problems. So I think it was a reasonably logical game.
You seem incredibly comfortable with the black pieces so far in this match. Is that the correct sentiment?
I would say I wouldn't say very comfortable. I feel like I've been trying to equalize in both games without getting a lot of chances, but it's okay. It's fairly normal procedure in these matches.
Jan, the trouble of the white pieces, as you made it documented nowadays, it seems very difficult to get advantage with white, even after months of preparation. What are you going to need to do to change the trend?
Whatever I'm going to do, the trend will remain the same. So that's not about my preparation or Magnus' preparation. That's about, let's say, the current theory status.
Magnus, what's going to be the difference maker? You guys seem to be punching it out right now on uneven terms.
Well, it's 3 games in. There's a lot of time to go, and as you saw yesterday, could easily have been decisive result. So, you could obviously for each game the most likely result is a draw. I mean, there's just saying otherwise would be quite disingenuous, but I mean, any game could explode. Just not today.
One last question for you. The tension, people see draws and they think it's just draws, it's not so interesting, but you've been a part of these so many years. How does the tension grow with each draw?
Yeah, as you said, obviously, as the match goes along, with each draw you get a bit more tense. But I would say so far, yeah, it's 3 games, and personally, I've been black in 2 of them, fairly satisfied. And there's a lot of time to create something. Although obviously it's not ever going to be easy against a very strong opponent.
All right, if I may ask the journalists, if, again, microphones on both sides of the room.
So Jan, I wanted to ask you about one moment. So when you played Rook E8, were you expecting knight A5, which is sort of the main line? Or
You mean 95 instead of Rook E8?
yes, was that something you were expecting, or was Rook E8 was it a surprise?
Well, in some way I expected everything. So I guess after such long preparation, you more or less try to be familiar with most of the moves. But I'm sure there are also maybe some work tries which haven't been played yet. So, yeah, okay, Rook E8 is one of the pretty logical sidelines like this. Whole plan is very healthy. Rook E8, Bishop F8, and 6. Yeah, so a little bit like that's a variation, yeah, but still very very nice play.
And then to Magnus, I wanted to ask about this one with H3. If Jan had played knight D2, was your aim to play D5?
Yeah, as Jan mentioned, we'll after D5 pretty much by force get this ending with an extra pawn for white, which I thought was just a dead draw.
So even if the bishop, would come to C3 and pawn at A5, was your idea to reroute the bishop to A6 possibly, or did you think?
No, I thought the bishop eventually after D5, everything gets taken. You take on A5, Rook A8, Bishop C7, Rook A4, Bishop goes to E5 and then C3, and then you go F6, King F7, H5. The bishops are just way too strong, I think.
So you decided you were more than willing to go into this endgame, or did you consider perhaps playing another move to keep things going and maybe perhaps some chances?
I hadn't decided yet, but I had I had that in reserve, at least I thought. So there might have been other options, but it didn't feel realistic that I could actually play for something. So probably that's what I would have done.
And I know on the first day I asked you about football
I'm
player.
sorry, we have to give all the journalists an opportunity. You can come back on the mic if there are other questions. Thank you.
Hi, Saravanan from ChessBase. Ian, in the official commentary, Vishy Anand was discussing about your opening strategy. To quote him, in every match, people have tried different strategies against Magnus, but so far they haven't cracked it. Ian's strategy seems to be very reasonable. His style has been classical. He's playing the Rylopers, the Catalan with black. For the moment, he's playing the mainland and it's working for him. Was this your strategy? Would you agree with him, and do you think it's working for you?
No, but as Vishy said, it seems very reasonable for him. Yes, actually, I also hope it's reasonable. But, I guess after 3 games, it's too early to discuss strategy.
Mike Klein with chess.com. This question is for Magnus Carlsen. Magnus, this is far from your first rodeo. I know you have processes that have probably been established, so I'm wondering, how much are you trusting your team for in-match opening improvements, or are you still very hands-on in the middle of a match when looking for opening improvements?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. You know, I don't wanna say too much, but it's always a combination that obviously you have a good team that you trust, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm making the decisions.
Hi, this is Jon from BST from Montenegro. I have a question for Jan about the move H3. How happy were you at that point to make that kind of a move? Can you walk us through what was going on in your head at that point?
No, I think I surely won't tell you what I was thinking. But in general, I found out that d5 is likely inevitable, and this was a way to improve my position before d5. So maybe I could capitalize on that if like to push d5 immediately, but I guess also d5 should work pretty nicely. But yeah, somehow after h3, c6, it's not such a great important entry, but h3 could be useful in many lines. So I'm not getting mated on the first rank at least.
Thanks.
I am Rune from the Global Podcast of Chess24. The question is primarily for Magnus, and would also love to hear if Ian had a reaction. It appears that today's game was analyzed in an online database all the way up until move 20 2 days ago. If this was somebody from your team who forgot to make it private, how would you react?
I don't think. I don't think any of us can reasonably comment on that.
Well, I can only say that normally you try to switch off this online cloud option in your ChessBase when you analyze, yeah, to make sure no one uses, let's say, your fruitful analysis. But I mean, it could probably be a coincidence as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alexander Sergeyev, TV channel Russia One. My question is for Jan, and I will ask in Russian. Ян, скажи, пожалуйста, 3 ничьих подряд, насколько для вас комфортна эта ситуация, насколько она вас устраивает, и после суточного вот этого перерыва, который предстоит, можно ли ждать изменения тактики или стратегии, ужесточения, может быть?
Ну, сложно сказать, вчера, на самом деле, были некоторые довольно серьезные шансы, хотя в целом даже против глубокий анализ показывает, что ничего прям форсированного зачетных не было, да, то есть там совсем прям выигрыша. Вот, но, конечно, в принципе, всегда нацелен на максимально возможный результат, да, и, скажем так, вести 3-0, наверное, было бы лучше сделать ничьи, но надо понимать, что, в принципе, борьба очень вязкая, очень плотная, да, так что, вот, ну, опять же, играем как умеем. Вот, а получается после выходного дня, ну, не знаю, надо сначала сыграть партию черными, потом партию белыми, то есть я, честно говоря, не загадываю. Так, шаг за шагом.
Спасибо.
Ulrich Stenström, VG Norway. Question for both. As far as I understand, there is a doping test today. Do you think you can get an advantage in chess by using any kind of doping?
Jan?
Well, but if you use the doping, you are getting banned from the event, yes. I mean, that's how it works. But also, I don't know about, let's say, any medicine which especially helps you to play chess. Yeah, so you know, hopefully, okay, we won't witness someone, taking a headphone out of his ears. Yeah, or maybe the problem with this, let's say, chess doping game. Someone cheating, you can never accuse him of playing too well until it actually the headphone falls down onto the board. Yeah, and this is not going to happen, I believe. So I really hope that everyone is fair.
Thanks.
I think there are probably experiments to be made. I mean, people use drugs to both prepare for and to do exams, for instance. I assume they could possibly help in chess as well. If at some point my level of chess drops drastically, I might start. For now.
Ulrich Stock from Die Zeit, Hamburg, Germany. Question to both. First to Magnus. Besides eating, sleeping and drinking, what is the last non-chess related thing that you did in these days here?
That's a good question. I don't remember, but I can instead tell you about my plans, or the immediate plans after the game today. If it were not for the doping control, which sort of messes it up. The first step of the plan was Chelsea, Manchester United. Then the next step was Real Madrid, Sevilla, and then Golden State Clippers, and then I thought we'll kind of take it from there on a free day. Apart from that,
Well, that's a nice plan, actually. Probably I'll stick to at least some part of it.
Mike Manigo at chess.com. I guess I should just mention Gordon Hayward's coming on our broadcast, but that's neither here nor there. Question is mostly for Magnus. It's been a through line in your career that when it comes to sport versus science, you've actually wanted more of chess to come down to the side of sport, even if it's disadvantageous to you perhaps keeping your title. But do you still believe there should be more sport in chess? And if so, what are some measures that could be taken for the World Championship match?
I think there are many ways to play, but the most obvious ones, most obvious one is just shorten the time control. Yeah.
To what?
Well, at least make it a mix of classical and rapid.
We'll take two more questions, please, before we conclude.
Hey, Jonathan Corlo from chess.com. This is for Magnus. Magnus mentioned his love of sports, some soccer as well as some basketball. In the off day, you said take it from there. Was there any plan to actually engage in some athletics on the off day? It's actually also for Jan as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on how I feel, but I will definitely try and be active tomorrow. As has been mentioned many times, now that we play 3 days in a row instead of 2, then it means there are more limitations on the amount of physical activity you can get. So I'll definitely be looking for that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, you got to do something a part of chess and eating and sleeping. So yeah, that's surely a part of your day when it's a day off. But in general, I always I'm normally trying not to get tired even more than during a chess game. Yes, it should be something pretty balanced.
And you guys have known each other for a very long time and played many games of chess against each other. Have you played any sports against each other over the time you've known each other?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess we played quite some football. Yeah, in the same team and different teams, but that's normally what you do during some round robin tournaments. In the rest day you go somewhere and play. Okay, they call it football.
Thank you.
Yes, for the last question. So draws are of course not a new thing in World Championship chess at all. We have gone like 5 years now without a decisive game in the classical portion. In those 5 years, there has been a huge influx of new chess fans who may not understand or appreciate why we have so many draws. Jan first, and then Magnus, if you could chime in afterwards. To these new chess fans who may not understand, could you have a comment or way of explanation of why we see so many draws?
Well, normally you need mistakes for a decisive result. So this probably could tell you that players are not making too many mistakes. Yeah, and yeah, if the if that you play consistently, yeah, so you don't blunder too often at least. Yeah. In general, chess becomes quite a drawish game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that so much has been written and said about this. I really don't have a lot to add. We try.
Well, we are happy that you do. Thank you very much.
One more question.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a question for both. This is Theo Waite from Lichess. Stockfish 14 with NU seems to possess this game as 2 average center-pawn loss versus 3 average center-pawn loss, which in our assessment so far seems to have been the most accurate, according to Engines, game ever played in Chess World Championship history. Can I ask you both, perhaps starting with Magnus, how it feels to have played what seems to be one of the most accurate games to have been played so far in World Championship history, according to Engines?
Well, thank you very much. It feels great. It fills me with pride. But unfortunately, only half a point.
Sure.
Yeah, I must say it's quite a murky question before the doping test.
Thank you very much.
One question for you, Magnus, from the FeedHS Twitter, asked by Vava Chess at ChessVava. What will people remember about Magnus Carlsen 50 years from now?
I don't know. I think talking about legacy during a match is a rabbit hole I don't wanna go down. But hopefully he will be somebody who won a classical game in a World Championship match after the year 2016.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our press conference. We will have our next game at 16:30, 2 days from now. Tomorrow's a rest day. Expect an exciting game 4. Thank you and good night.